Hello, and welcome to our fifth series of the Grow Southampton podcast with me, Councillor Daniel Fitzhenry, leader of Southampton City Council. And today it's a really great pleasure to have a friend, business associate, contact, key Sotonian. I could go on with a long list of this, Ben, of how to describe
you. You don't need to, Dan.
Yeah, but a really great person in our city who I've known for a long period of time to talk about their journey, why Southampton, all the things that Spencer Bowman from Mettricks is doing now and has done over the last few years and the future as well. So welcome, Spencer. Thanks very much for coming along today, mate.
Thanks
Good to see you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Good to see you too.
Yeah, and what a story I think we're gonna delve into in a mo. And I suspect we could be here all day, but
yeah, we need to keep it short.
We'll keep it short. Yeah, that will be challenging, won't it? But yeah, Spen. So tell us a little bit about you and your business and how did it all start?
So I am a very proud Soutonian. I grew up in an SO postcode, so Marchwood. I went to school here, and although when I left, I didn't think I'd come back. Since the age of 22, the city has pulled me back every time I've tried to get away. So yeah, I lived here for the first 7 years of my career whilst working for Mars Chocolate, which I had an amazing time, real great grounding in kind of the basics of business, working for a great company, a great family-owned company. But started Mettricks as a frustrated consumer. So in my travels at university, I'd ended up studying in Singapore and spending some time in New Zealand. And I can still remember having my first life-changing flat white coffee in Christchurch, New Zealand. And on my camera roll, there's two key photos in my life that have, for better or worse, transformed kind of how things have played out. And the first was this flat white. And I can remember drinking it and thinking, wow, I get coffee for the first time. This thing tastes incredible. In my head up until that point, kind of Starbucks had done as a bit of a social, Friends Central Park type meeting place venue, but it was always something with a lot of caramel syrup. And actually the drink, I didn't really enjoy it. Or it was Maxwell House that my uncle used to drink. And it's like, why on earth does he drink
Good old Maxwell
I just
House.
don't understand it. And I presumed that as I grew older that, maybe my palate would change and I'd come to grow to like this horrible kind of watery drink. And I drank this flat white in Christchurch by myself, sat outside in the New Zealand sunshine and, completely got it. And then the next picture, so I was a bit of a classic car fan. My grandma had a little shop in Bewley. Brenda Mettrick had a little shop in Bewley where obviously the Motor Museum is. So I grew up in and around kind of old classic cars and rallies and all of that kind of stuff. And there was an old 1960s Volvo in Mettricks yellow. And so these two photos sit next to each other on my photo album. So from that moment, I had a real passion for trying to kind of figure out decent coffee wherever I went. And with work, with Mars, I spent quite a bit of time working in Bristol, in Brighton, and in kind of 2010, 2011, 2012, there was a growing specialty coffee scene across the UK. And I came back to Southampton where I was living. So I was living down in Ocean Village where I've lived for the last 12, 13 years, right in the middle of the city. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'd come back and I'd be in Southampton for a weekend and there was nowhere I could go to have a good cup of coffee. There was no way. Like Starbucks still existed, but that had been ruined for me. There were a few places that tried it a little bit and didn't really get it right. And so the idea formulated actually with my little sister. So she went travelling for a year, came back after university, Jade, who you know.
Yeah.
And she said, I don't know really what I want to do, Spen. I said, well, I've got an idea. How about we
that
open
big brother moment.
A specialty coffee shop in Southampton? Like, I think there's a gap in the market. It will make me very happy as a consumer. And she went along with my crazy plan for a little while. She kind of said,
good old family.
Yeah, I'll give you a year of my life spent to help make it work. I might then leave you and go and do other things. But so we did, in August, September 2013, we opened Southampton's and Hampshire's first specialty coffee shop down at Old Town, which you know quite well because you were located down that end of town as well. So that was the inspiration, I guess, was as a frustrated consumer wanting to create a coffee experience, but also having learnt some of the best and worst of what good coffee houses felt like. So at their worst, specialty coffee places can feel pretentious, quite cliquey, quite unwelcoming. I wasn't into that. I wanted to be serving really great tasting coffee, but in an environment that had kind of the community and the whole community very much at its heart. And so the name Mettrick, which means a lot to me because it's my grandma's kind of surname, also came to kind of really embody that vision of being a place that my gran, who we've left at Mettricks, actually now can sit and enjoy a cappuccino just as readily as the best hipsters in the city and everybody in between. And from that kind of really simple proposition of being, no, this wants to be a community meeting place that happens to also do great quality coffee and great quality food at the same time. And we got lots right, we've got lots wrong along the years, but nearly 9 years later, we're still here. So,
and growing.
And growing again, which is excellent. So, yeah.
And I mean, your story, of course, as you say, I mean, we've worked together business-wise, and in an old business that I had, we've known each other. I've eaten lots of Mettricks bacon sandwiches.
I've made a few for you.
Yeah, you've made a few, and coffees. And you've really taken that, as you say, that miles, I was in a job, doing really well, and then gone, right, I've seen an opportunity in here in Southampton, 2 pictures that have inspired the mind, taken the challenge, pulled the blessed Jade in, your sister, to help, and then gone and made it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the incredible things about Southampton. It's an incredibly entrepreneurial young city, despite the fact it's been here thousands of years. You can trace it all the way back to the Romans. Actually, it's got blank spaces, blank canvases everywhere, and that, as an entrepreneur, is incredibly exciting. We've got a great mix of people. We've got the physical spaces, and the city centre has never quite reached its full potential, but it's all there. And so as somebody who really gets a buzz out of opening the doors of a venue and seeing the world come in and make it its own, I absolutely love it. And looking around Mettricks at its best, you'll be there having a meeting with the chief exec of the council. In another corner, there'll be a group of students who are busy working on a first year project. There'll be a first date going on in the corner. My gran's in there having a coffee, reading the newspaper. All of life, whether it's creative, political, business, social, students, all happens within kind of our 4 walls. And I find it absolutely magical. And I think Southampton has got so much going for it that allows that to come together. I think, I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to do it, really.
And you and I have discussed this concept theme, of this, and here we are, within the last 10 years, we've discussed this quite heavily, and here we are now, part of Grow Southampton, on the podcast, talking about these things. But what I really love, and as you say, this is a city of opportunity, and we're at a moment now, a window of opportunity that we've never had before, is you've taken an idea, your dream, your vision, and made it reality, and we'll talk about the bumps and the ups and downs that we all experience in a minute. But what would you say to someone out there who, might already have grown their business, or so they're running it, or maybe they're thinking about starting it, or they're coming to Southampton, or they think, is Southampton really the place for me? What would you say to them?
I think it's very seriously worth consideration. And I think that because we don't have a load of established operators almost in any sector, there's a market to cultivate. We had to, with the coffee side of things, we had to take the consumer with us a little bit. So I knew that specialty coffee, better coffee, was something that could work in Southampton. But we didn't have a consumer base here of people that had been enjoying it for a while because we were the first. And so actually it was hard work. It took us a good few years to win over people to how we were trying to do it. We'd have people storming out and saying this coffee's not big enough or not hot enough or there's not enough caramel syrup in it. And we stuck to our guns. And it was painful. It was really painful at times. It was depressing at times. However, it didn't mean that the potential was not there, and it didn't mean that actually in the long run it wasn't not just really worthwhile sticking at it, probably more worthwhile sticking at it, because the level or the size of that opportunity and potential is probably as great, if not bigger, than anywhere else. And so hard work, it is, but the space to get creative, to do things very differently. I think it's amazing that we've been able to set the kind of the feeling of specialty coffee in the whole city. Off the back of Mettricks. Right? We've set a standard that means that pretentious side of coffee, I don't think it'll ever work here. Whereas other places, that's taken such a hold that you're almost expecting it when you go into a place. And I think that doesn't just apply to coffee. I think it applies to all sorts of areas in the business world as well. So I would highly recommend seriously considering this place, being open to the challenges of it. But I think if you've got a good idea and you're committed to working hard, all of the key ingredients are here. I think the networks of people that exist here, they've not only always been here. I think in the past it was far harder to figure them out. You know, I spent a long time trying to figure out that support network around me. I think it's far more obvious. I think that we've come together as a city of, you know, Chris Rees, who you spoke to a couple of weeks ago. You know, we've gone on this journey together over the last 7-8 years as well. I think we both feel that level of support in a way that we probably didn't in the past. It's there now. It's tangible. You can feel it. It's almost obvious.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah,
it's in the air, isn't it? And
there's something in the air.
There is something in the air.
Yeah.
Or in the water.
In the water, or the coffee.
Or the coffee. Yeah. And how you know, I want to touch a little bit on this. I know we'll talk about some challenges that you've had pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
But how was the pandemic changed your business? And what was that like? You know, I know you're seasoned, so you went at it with a can-do attitude, but...
Well, I mean, I took the business back on during pandemic, of course. So I did leave Mettricks for a little while and exited. So I took it.
Tell
back.
us a little bit about that if you want to go into that.
Yeah, well, so I guess the flip side of opportunity is that sometimes too many opportunities can present themselves, and I think that's certainly the case. I think we grew very rapidly, and I'd say the first kind of 2013 through to 2017, we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, but we were in a really positive momentum place. We had a big wobble in 2018. I didn't manage to kind of bolster my team and build the team in a way that would allow us to grow in a more controlled way. I got a little bit carried away with the opportunities that were out there. Some of the issues we had were kind of slightly external, so we threw ourselves at projects that ultimately were quite challenging. So, for example, the cultural quarter, you know, the project that didn't quite come off when we did Tyrrell's. We threw a lot of energy at Woolston and did things beyond the core Mettricks proposition. I feel really proud of a lot of what we did and what we tried to do, and I learned an awful lot from it. And there's some really happy memories from it as well. But we certainly took on far too much. And I didn't manage to get the right team of people in support around me. Ultimately, I ended up having a bit of a breakdown of some kind, and I was looking for a partner or somebody to come in with me, and was given an exit essentially by another fast-growing coffee company in Hampshire, who I trusted with my vision and thought, actually, these guys are going to be better placed to take this forward from here. I quite quickly regretted that decision. I managed to have some time out, so I managed to go travelling. I had 4 months travelling. I went and did some further study, which was amazing. I got some time to reflect on what I'd learned. I know that you've managed to do a very, very similar thing. And the power of having 5 years worth of incredible experience, but relentless experience, and being, not coming up for air or to be able to really process the learning. That was almost partly what took its toll. So to have 18 months of thinking, some of it was a little bit regretful, and some of it was, I wish I had the chance to do that again. But some of it was, okay, if I did have the chance to do it, how would I do it differently? And if I did something different to Mettricks, how would that apply? And how, what role did I have in these challenges? And how? So I had 18 months of thinking that stuff through, and was then presented in the September, October of 2020, after the first lockdown.
Yeah.
With the opportunity to take Mettricks back. So the company that I had sold Mettricks to, they went into administration in that summer. They exited the business, and they gave up on the Mettricks business. And I knew, kind of probably better than they did, the value of what we had created. Because actually, by then, it wasn't just about a cup of coffee. The spaces and the communities that we'd built, both the residential communities, the creative communities, the business communities, we were so integral to the city's growth. City of culture. Great example. I can remember hosting the very first Southampton cultural organisation meeting down at Mettricks Old Town. There were 30 people that turned up.
Wow.
It was back in 2014 or 15.
Wow.
That was where we hosted it. It was within our walls.
Yeah.
And I can remember sitting there going, wow, this feels like it could be quite a cool thing, actually. And then the very first event we had at Mettricks Guildhall back in 2016 was the first attempt at bringing together that group of people again to formulate a kind of City of Culture plan. And you look at where it is now, and it's taken on some real momentum from those 30, 40 people that were sat at Old Town, all talking about the frustrations of the creative community not quite pulling together, and all the way through to what is an incredible
in
bid.
the final 8, and hopefully going to win.
Absolutely, you look at that, you look at the bid, and it's world class. The people that are now involved and the energy behind it, it's taken on huge kind of momentum. But the initial seeds for that happened. I was sat on the benches of Mettricks Old Town looking and thinking, wow, this is amazing. So I knew that there was something far more than just a coffee shop in what we had. And so we took a massive risk in taking on what was essentially a bankrupt business, and kind of on one hand got the doors open and started kind of operating again with a very broken, but we had bits of kit, all the key kit was missing, the place was sad and dirty, and we had hardly any team left.
It had lost its soul.
It had lost its soul. Yeah, it had lost that magic. It had been treated in a way that it was just we're selling coffee, and of course that's not what Mettricks ever was or ever should have been. And I can remember the first day of us reopening over in Woolston. I stood at the door because we didn't quite know how to do it. We were all wearing face masks.
And this was late 2020?
Yeah, this was August 2020, I think. Yeah, when we finally managed to reopen. We had our visors on.
Oh, yes.
And I decided on the visor, we actually put on the top, because I wanted to try and instill that kind of pride back in again immediately. We didn't put Mettricks on the visors. I got printed Southampton and Proud, because I wanted us to get back to the very roots of why we even existed, which wasn't to sell coffee. It was something far more meaningful than that. And I had a couple of our Old Town regulars who turned up, and they hadn't figured out that I was back involved. And I was at the door, and one of them broke down in tears and came and hugged me. And said, I'm so glad that you're back. And I don't think it was just about me personally. I think it was about what the Mettricks of old had represented to them, and what we had a chance to do from there. So we did. We reopened the doors in that kind of that late 2020 period, and finally signed the deal fully to take back control of the business the week before the second lockdown happened.
Yep.
And so all of the planning that we'd done going into, how are we going to turn this business around, changed like that.
And then changed again and
changed again. And we were operating a business that was, we had suppliers that essentially didn't want to work with us. I was having to pay cash up front before delivery drivers would even turn up with our milk in the morning. It was incredibly, incredibly hard work. We were building it back up with broken tools and some, but what we had back was a core group of people who really believed and remembered. We had the muscle memory of what it was before. And we had not just working for us, but we had that, the Southampton community that remembered it as well. And the goodwill and the passion that they had to see the spaces that we had created before come back to life was phenomenal. We wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have been able to do it if our customers, the community, hadn't said, we're going to back you. And we're going to back you because you're going to get it wrong. Even when you get it wrong, we're going to support you. And
stay with you.
It was emotionally uplifting, because there were some really, really difficult times where I just couldn't see kind of the path ahead. Professionally uplifting, the support I had from the peer group and the business network that I'd personally created over the kind of previous 5-6 years was incredible. And slowly but surely, I think we got around to a place where our suppliers started to back us again. They could sense it too. So somehow, we I go a week in and we closed the doors for people sitting in, and we had to pivot immediately, and we got Deliveroo and Uber Eats on, and we had we were doing takeout only, and we were trying everything that we possibly could just to keep the thing ticking over, having tricky conversations with landlords, and it was kind of good fun. It was exhausting. Don't get me wrong, it was exhausting. But I think when you get that second chance, and you're so determined, to take it, because I really believed in what Mettricks could be again. And so we did that. We did that for 6 or 7 months through to, it was probably April, May of 2021 before we started to see, okay, this is starting to work.
Yep.
Like this momentum that has been bubbling again, and the positive energy that we felt, actually this is now starting to translate into being. And then we had a slightly different oh gosh moment, which was that summer we were busier than we'd ever been before. And so we were coming out of that second lockdown, and we almost couldn't cope with the amount of support that we were getting. We were struggling to recruit and hire the people that were going to help make that happen. And they're trying to rebuild a culture kind of in the team that you've got at the same time as fixing a broken business financially, and was, again, massive challenge. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it was probably September, October time last year. I sat in Woolston down by the river, and the sun was setting down at Centenary Quay. Over Ocean Village. The view from Mettricks Woolston is one of the best views, I think, in the city. It's framed perfectly by the tower, the tallest building in Southampton. It's nearly finished now, and the tower on the other side, and you've got the Ocean Village skyline in the background. It feels like a world-class view, and the sunset's just down there. And a bit of an emotional moment, sat there with an old-fashioned a cocktail. It wasn't a coffee. And I thought, I think we've made it. I think not only have we somehow survived this thing, I think we've set ourselves up to be better than we've ever been before. And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from a landlord of a place in Portswood, saying,
which you've recently opened.
Which we recently opened, and he said, "Look, we've known about what you've been doing for a while. We're looking to get a good, high quality local operator in. Would you be interested in having a conversation?" And it's a former Lloyds Bank building, Portswood High Street, opposite Sainsbury's. I've driven past it numerous times. I ate in there in its kind of previous incoming, and I remember thinking this would make an incredible space, really well located, close to the university, where we've had great connections with the university through the last 8-9 years. We've hosted Pint of Science and various other kind of university-linked kind of official and unofficial events, and we've done loads with Solent University, obviously in the centre of the city. Lots of people living in the kind of Highfield area, lots of the families that, they've always backed us and said, we could do some good coffee up this way and some brunch. And then the wider student community. So that conversation happened only a couple of weeks after I'd had this kind of moment of realisation that, I think we're going to be okay. And so we were again in this crazy situation where we're only a couple of months out of having essentially a bankrupt business. And I think Southampton and the confidence that I've got in the support that we've got in this place made me think, that's worth taking a risk at this moment in time. And, whether it was a rational one at the time or not, I didn't really know, but I thought, no, this is an opportunity worth pursuing, and we did. And the more we had conversations with the landlord and the more I spoke to people in the local area, the more I thought, no, I think this has got real legs. And so, a week ago we opened Mettricks Portswood, and I'd say it's the closest to the full vision of a Mettricks that we've ever had. It already feels like it's been there forever. It's got all of the world coming in and using it. It's an incredible feeling, actually. I've done a lot of sleeping in the last few days to recover from that kind of monumental effort of getting it up and running. But it's it feels amazing.
And obviously I know lots of the detail, and I saw you when you were in those moments of sold the business and everything going. But there's a real power that we've touched on, and you've touched on there, which is about resilience and staying in the game. Because actually you're as close to opportunity as you are to failure at any one stage. And you're right, you just broke through one, you came back in, and then all these doors start opening. Yeah. And actually as a city, we have that tenacity. We have that 2,000 years since the Romans, I suppose, in one way, shape or form, as a city of staying in the game, keeping moving, taking opportunity, taking risk. And then just like we've got now as a city, like you have as a business, there comes a point when almost the resistance just breaks away, and you start sailing out. And we're kind of there now as a city, aren't we? It's like, we've had all these tough moments, and now we broke through them and we're really going somewhere. Yep. And you guys have exactly done. You've done that yourself. So full credit to you. And now the chances come, and you go, we got this. Yeah, we love a bit of the rough and tumble all over the place, and not knowing what day of the week it is.
I don't know whether I need as much rough and tumble as I've had in the past going forward, but I still love it. Yeah.
It does something to you, doesn't it? So one of the things also that my ward is in Harefield in the east of the city, and the east and the west and the centre are quite different places. Yep. But one thing that Mettricks Woolston does that really wasn't there before in any way, shape or form on the East was provide a place that people just had nowhere to go to, did they, in Southampton? Of course, in the city centre, you've done, your provision is new, but there were other sort of places that people could go, not with the same feel. But the East is just very different to Woolston.
Yep.
But what's your thoughts on where the food scene and the cultural scene is, the sort of foodie scene is now and where we're going in the future? Oh. And you guys are crucial to that.
We're about to start roasting our own coffee. So we're waiting on a gas supply to be installed. And that's all we're waiting on. We were supported, backed by the city community we did some crowdfunding at the end of last year. To buy a coffee roaster, which has been sat over in Woolston, kind of teasing us for the last 3 or 4 months.
Just looking at you, waiting.
It's looking at us, just waiting for this gas supply to be sorted. A combination of world events, I think, has conspired a little bit against us, but we're really close to doing that. We've over in Woolston as well. We've just set up our own bakery, so we're baking all of our cakes, our breads, our pastries on site for our 3 stores.
More cakes for me to eat.
More cakes, exactly. And from there, we're looking to really continue to develop our food proposition and the career opportunities for kind of food in the city as well. I think, again, Southampton has got some real great kind of food and drink businesses, but there's still a massive kind of gap for that entrepreneurial spirit. If you look at other places that have got street food markets and kind of food van markets and all of this that's where the kind of the ideas are fermenting in the future. And we've not quite got that space yet. We've not, certainly not all year round. There are moments when it happens. And I think there's, for me, there's a real opportunity to do a lot more planned pop-up stuff. I know Matt Sanger and all of the stuff that, hopefully might happen in terms of the container park. We've benefited from pop-up spaces as Mettricks in the past. We did a 2-week pop-up at God's House Tower. I don't know, that must be 5-6 years ago.
Yes,
now.
I remember that.
Just as Dan had got his hands on that building, was trying to formulate what could we do in there. We did a pop-up for a couple of years. Mettricks Bargate was a pop-up. We were only supposed to be there for 3 months. We ended up being there for 2 years. And actually that opportunity that was our second site at the time, to go from 1 site to 2 in a low risk place probably gave us the kind of the momentum and confidence to go on and do other things as well. So I definitely think there's some real space for that in the city. I think the future of food and drink now is going to be driven by bottom up, local, independent, talented people, and they are in Southampton. They exist already. There's just in the same way as the creative world has got it bubbling away. I think lockdown had a lot of these talented people. A few of them that worked for us. They were doing their businesses from home. They were they popped up on Facebook and they were just giving this a go and they were giving that a go. And Southampton isn't lacking in homegrown talent. We maybe in the past have lacked the spaces and the support network or the confidence even to get them to give it a go. And I think some of that has maybe been because they haven't, there's not enough role models of people that have given it a go and made it work. And if there's something that I can change around this here, I started Mettricks not with a huge amount of money. We alluded to earlier, I made your bacon sandwiches, and
they were very nice.
I've worked across, in all the roles in the business. This wasn't, it hasn't been handed to me. It's been hard work, and it's taken its toll at times, but it has been possible. And I think those possibilities are only growing. And I think those people are not just in certain areas of the city. I think they're absolutely everywhere. And the fact that we've been embraced, Mettricks. If you look at the city centre, our Guildhall site, sometimes it can feel a bit hipster in there. We're in Woolston. Woolston's our busiest site. We've been fully embraced by Woolston Western community, which, as you say, can sometimes be overlooked. We are, we're a 5-minute walk away from our, the waterfront, the Western Shore beach, which I run along regularly. And when I'm over in Woolston, I'll get out and walk. People in the city don't even know about. Know about it. I'm amazed at the number of people in Southampton that are not aware of what's going on the other side of the city. And I think to bring kind of that whole half of the city back into our collective consciousness and recognise not only does it exist, but there's some really interesting stuff over there. There's some amazing places, and there's some really worthwhile people that are worth backing as well. I think the opportunity for food and drink in the city is completely underexplored. that we're a part of it, I'm super excited about. I hope that there's a load more people that come and pile in an independent capacity doing interesting stuff that will actually complement us, because my view is very strongly that competition on this level is not a bad thing. I'd love there to be more specialty coffee places, because I think we can grow the number of consumers that appreciate tasty food, great drink, and the kind of atmosphere and environment that we've got. I'm quite happy to see fewer of the chain operators in the city. That might be a hard thing to say, but I think they're retreating a little bit anyway. There was a massive growth in fast kind of casual dining, and I just don't think that's where it is now. And I think a reassessment as a city away from the VIP project's really important. But I think this recognition that let's back local people and give them the chance, because they might not have the millions of pounds to invest, but actually investing 60, 70 hours of your life every week is probably more valuable in the long run. So
Mettricks has a really great feel about it. Part of that is welcoming dogs. More recently, there's more dogs. I was like, oh, look, all these dogs everywhere. This is great fun. Stroking them and chatting to them, and to the owners. So the dog friendly, the warmth, and you've talked about. But what makes Mettricks so unique, do you think, to Southampton, that people have embraced you in the way that they have?
I mean, I think that the physical space has been designed so that it feels like my grandma's living room. And my memory of George and Margaret's living room as a kid, which was, they lived in a very modest one bed bungalow, but their front door was always open. Like, I can never remember having to knock. My memory is pushing on this door and it being open and running in. My memory is also of Grandma mostly standing at the kitchen stove with a kettle on. It was one of those old kettles that whistled, and there was a few cakes that she'd baked that would be sitting on the side, ready to be kind of cut up, and the warm embrace that you'd get from her as soon as you kind of landed in there, and just there being people everywhere all of the time, and kids. So I was the eldest of the great grandkids and grandkids and grandma and granddad's friends, and the house was just buzzing and friendly with everybody, and there was that was the essence of how I wanted Mettricks to feel, that it was an absolute open door policy for everybody. Really do not mind where you're from, who you're coming with, why you're coming into Mettricks, as long as you're fairly well behaved. I wanted from the beginning for it to be that kind of space. So that kind of vision was there right from the very start. And to complement that, I've been there's one thing that I am quite picky about, and that is the people that we employ. And again, it's not that there's one particular type of people, but I'm quite particular. They have to have a kind of generous spirit when it comes to hospitality. That idea that we are there, my team are there, to help facilitate other people feeling comfortable, having a good time, having a great quality product, but also just feeling really safe, secure, comfortable in that environment for whatever it happens to be that they're doing. And that does include well-behaved dogs.
Yes.
It does. I mean, we've had people, I think we've had a rabbit in at some point.
Wow.
Got a rabbit into, so it's not limited to dogs, but that it is that idea that we are a living room for Southampton.
Yeah. And that really comes across.
And I think it's been embraced. In fact, that kind of phrase, Southampton's living room, is one that we use quite frequently now. I wish that I'd come up with it. I didn't. I didn't pay somebody to come up with it. It was a customer that said, you know what, Spen, this feels a bit like my living room. Yeah. And it's like, it kind of is. That's exactly what it is. And so, given that in a living room all of life takes place, that's the same. That's the same thing at Mettricks, and we go with the flow a little bit. We have said yes to kind of almost every type of event that takes place in there. We're not exclusive in any way, shape, or form. I mean, just this week we hosted an incredible discussion by the Reclaim the Streets ladies on International Women's Day. And the place was packed full, and it was our space that they chose. It was our safe space that they chose to host this discussion on making the city a safer place for women. That was a spine-tingling kind of proud moment. We didn't make that happen. I didn't go out to. None of us went out to seek that. They came to us and they said, "Actually, Mettricks is a safe place in the city for us. We'd love to host the discussion with you." that's been this case right the way throughout our time. I can remember we've had various different minority groups that have met in Southampton and have said, do you mind if we have a little corner so we can meet and have discussions? And it absolutely has been. We've got involved in everything from the breastfeeding aware campaigns to it's far more than just a cup of coffee. I guess it's a whole view on how we should be living our life in a city in a very open, tolerant, accepting way.
Yeah.
And I think people, because it's not forced, because people feel it, they see it, it's co-created.
Yep.
It's not something, although the vision is my grandma's living room, actually that reflects quite well on other people's ideas of their safe place, whatever it happens to be. It doesn't have to be their grandma. It's whatever that is. So, yeah, dogs, well-behaved dogs are welcome, but well-behaved humans are welcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was just thinking then, Ben, that the power of grandmas and grandparents, because I was very fortunate that I went to work. My family, my grandparents, or my grandma, my nan, and granddad, but she ran the business. So they ran a little fruit and veg market stall at Lymington and Ringwood and other places. And at 9 years old, I went to work with them. Mm-hmm. And actually, I remember, I wouldn't be here now without that, and I wouldn't have created lots of businesses and done lots of things. But my nan taught me one thing similar to you talking about your vision, which was, she said to me, you always treat the customer with respect. You make the customer feel like they want to come back. You talk to people and you work with them to solve their problems and give them what they want. Yep. And smile and be generous and prosperous. And they'll keep coming back to you. Just look after them and they'll keep coming back. And in all that we're doing, these mantras that are installed from us from people, and I think that's part of what drove me to want to do this and, to invite you on and other people, because what we're doing now is saying to people, you don't need to know all the answers, but if you've got a vision of something you want to go do, we'd love you to do it here in our city. Yep. If you live here. If you don't live here, please come here and do it. Yeah. But those powerful key people around you that support you and tell you those messages are so important, aren't they? Yeah, I think they are. And I really believe it. I'm thrilled when I see people that I know come back. It's not I'm going to sell them another cup of coffee. That's absolutely not what it is at all. I'm genuinely thrilled that there are still people that I've now known for 9 years. I've made hundreds, if not thousands, of friends or friendly faces in this city as a result of how we've done Mettricks. It's not transactional at all. And that very much came from, again, my grandma. So we probably worked Lymington Market at a similar kind of time. So my gran had did she? She had a florist shop in Bewley. So it kind of evolved over the years. But she sold flowers for a while. I can remember she did. Now this might be a story we don't know about. She did a stall at Lymington Market a fair few times, and I age 6 or 7 or 8, I started helping grandma. I think sometimes I was probably being more of a nuisance than a help, but I tagged along and got involved. And so a lot of my kind of formative entrepreneurial kind of experiences actually were with my grandma, Brenda Mettrick, and incredibly important female kind of inspiration in my life. And she gave me kind of a couple of real key things that I've taken with me throughout life. One was that treat the customer really well. So her shop, she spoke to everybody. I can remember standing there sometimes thinking, Grandma, you're spending too much time with this customer. You're having for her, it was a social experience both ways. And as a result, she had incredibly loyal customers that came back all the time. She also instilled in me a real belief in actually, Spen, if you put your mind to something, you can do it. Yeah. Yes, it might be hard work. Yeah. And my first job, I was 13 when I got my first job, pot washing. I'm still the best KP in the business, I think, by the way. But yeah, I did some pot washing at age 13, and throughout college, I had 3 different jobs on the go, and I've always been very happy to work hard. But I've also believed that if you've got a good idea, if you get quite creative, I like to think that I'm a creative problem solver and an entrepreneur in that kind of mold. And you get a good group of people together, both working for you and the customers or the people. In the end, it will work out to a lesser or greater degree. And I think that momentum that we've built has picked us back up again off our asses, frankly, and is now driving us forward. Yep. It does feel like we're in an amazing place, and the city feels like it's similarly in a very exciting place. And that's it. It's like you say, it's that really key principle of that we've both obviously been taught, which was, look after the customer, treat everyone the same, treat them as special as they are because they are, build strong relationships with people, be open-minded, and keep solving problems. Yeah, and I think be generous as well. Yeah. Like
I have no problem with people coming and using our space, whatever modest means they might have. Like we have never been particularly fussy about people spending any real amount of money for us at all. I'm equally happy seeing some of the people that I know have got modest means coming in, enjoying Mettricks and sitting on a cup of coffee or a tea for hours at a time and reading a book and thinking, this is, who knows what situation this has got them out of. And here they are, sat in a space that's comfortable, and I love it. And I mean, we're fortunate. We've got some big spaces. We've got lots of seating. We don't have maybe the same pressure on having to turn people over as you might. But it's I get as much. In fact, I get more of a thrill out of that than I do out of other stuff. And it's a sincere kind of heartwarming thrill. And those moments are worth millions of pounds.
Yeah, there's no price on them.
You can't put a price on. You cannot put a value on the feeling that you get when people are there having those kind of experiences. And as a result of that kind of community, we've had a number of tear-jerking moments where I mean, the biggest one, and I had no real idea of the impact we were having, but there was a regular customer of ours who was a regular customer for 3 or 4 years, and he died of cancer. And he kind of his last few months, Mettricks was the one spot that he felt was completely safe. He felt like if anything went wrong, we'd look after him. It was all fine. And on the day of his funeral, my family member brought in the flowers that he'd had in the car on the way there, and it was a Mettricks yellow coffee cup made out of flowers. And he said, the family have decided that, Spen, you should have these because of the space and the way that you made him feel for the final months of his life. He asked for this, and that's what it was. And I just broke down completely in tears. And I think it's easy to forget the importance of the values that you instill at the heart of any kind of business. But I think hospitality in particular has got that, because it's bringing people together. It's providing that space. It's meaningful. It's magical. It's powerful, actually. And it's powerful in all sorts of different ways. I love just overhearing the snippets of conversation. I listen in, Dan, when I'm walking around. I listen in just a little.
I'll be mindful of phone calls I'm making.
But the snippets of conversations you hear that are going on in there, and you think, there's good ideas. There's more stuff building within these 4 walls than you could ever imagine, and we're helping to facilitate that. And you'll walk around and you'll bump into people that you didn't expect to see there, and those conversations happen organically and spontaneously. And what comes of those might just be a bit of a pick me up, or it might be a good idea that actually just ends up being. Yeah, it's magic.
It is magic. It is magic. And, I think you're right about food and hospitality. And as a city, this is a space that's growing. And for me personally, it's the bringing together, it's the idea. But there is something in hospitality and food and just that products coming from all over the world coming together, people coming together, enjoying, experiencing, changing, adapting, trying new things, sticking to their old menus, whatever it is. There's just something warm about it. And, as a city, we've got a massively ambitious growth programme. There's lots of things we want to do, whether it be over at Woolston and Weston, or whether it be city centre, or all over the city as well. But how do you see, Southampton change? So we talked about the food pop-ups, and there'll be more of those, and the spaces, and the more free-flowing stuff that's a bit more funky and creative. Yeah. How do you see the high street food, retail, beverage changing? Because of course some changes are already underway now. Yeah, we've talked about.
Well, I think it absolutely has. I mean, one of the big ones, of course, is delivery. And kind of that as an idea, and as an opportunity for startups actually to have a route to market to their consumer without having to have expensive premises. And it'd be great again to see a way of getting some of the more independent entrepreneurial ideas through into that kind of setting in a low risk, low cost space. I think the bit that Southampton maybe has lacked in its entirety is the ecosystem.
Yeah.
I think the entrepreneurial ecosystem in lots of ways has been a little bit disjointed. It doesn't mean it hasn't been there. It often has, but it hasn't fully flowed together. And I think it sits together better now than it has before.
Yeah.
Some of that is the spaces.
Yep.
You know, we don't have a natural permanent market space that a lot of great cities do. You know, I think that one of my asks would be, let's have a permanent market space where...
Well, we're going to do something with
Yeah,
that. I don't know what we're going to do yet. But
but where it's an incubator.
Yeah.
In that same sense, I mean, we're sat in an incubator of a different kind here. That, you know, these spaces didn't exist in the city 4 or 5 years ago, and now there's various of them.
It was Mettricks having a bacon sandwich and a cup of tea.
It was indeed. Yeah. It was. It still can be.
It still can be. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that ecosystem bit will, and ecosystems tend to harness and support the good ideas and help them grow quickly. It helps to put a bit of a dampener on the less good ideas, but you know, you can do that in a supportive way. Say, actually, you haven't risked too much. I think the idea, as a country and as a city, I think sometimes we've been a little bit risk averse. You know, we've looked for safe bets. I think that's maybe why we've looked for the big investment from national and international customers to come and do stuff, because they've got the hundreds of millions of pounds sat in a bank account to do it. And I think we need to de-risk some of the thinking on it and say, you know what, give it a go.
Yeah.
If you've got a good thing, you can still feel proud of it, even if it didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so one of my failed businesses was Supermarine, the wood-fired pizza place over in Woolston. You know, it nearly bankrupted me, and it gave me a lot of the grey hairs I've got now. And it was, you know, in lots of ways, an incredibly painful experience. Do you know what? We still made the best pizzas this city ever had. I feel really proud of that. We still had two of the best Italian pizza chefs, I think, in Hampshire, possibly in Woolston. And we got the product mix wrong for the market. There was lots of stuff we got wrong. And actually, in the eyes of a few people, and I heard it said, it's like, oh, of course, Spence, you're a bit of a failure when it comes to restaurants, and you shouldn't probably do that again. And at the time, it knocked the confidence out of me a bit. It's like, oh, maybe they're right. You know, maybe I actually can't. Maybe I can't do it. Maybe I was, completely wrong to even give it a go. And after my 18 months of reflection, it's like, you know what? No, we tried to do a really good thing. The principles of that business were the same as Mettricks, which is high quality, doing something really special for the city that we didn't quite land it. I now feel good about that experience, and I learnt so much from it. But I think that there's, and there were some people in the senior kind of business community that didn't necessarily support at the time that risk and that failure in the way that they could have done. So I think there's still some collective learning that we can have as a city to say you can fail. And it can not just be all right, but you can celebrate it. As long as you've done it so long as you've done it in the right way. As long as you've actually tried to do a good thing, that's not a bad thing. Let's not write those people off. Let's give them a second chance. And I think the more we de-risk it mentally, as much as anything else, for people to give it a go, the more we'll see hundreds, thousands of people giving it a go. And it can start on a market stall. It can start on a Saturday afternoon or a morning. It can be from a kitchen at home, as long as they've got the sign off from the council, obviously, and it can whatever that happens to be. And I think the more that people see those stories that are positive, in a positive light, the more we can change the narrative on it, the momentum will build.
Yeah, and I think there's, I think for me, I've lived, like you say, those experiences of, the classic of me was, and I was very ambitious. I wanted to grow really quickly. I took on too much. I grew really quickly. I couldn't manage it. I got out of it, and it all went to whatever we want to say. Use a descriptive word to describe. But the fact is that haunting does stay with you for a period. For me, it was, you're too ambitious, you're never going to achieve these things. But actually, you have to work through it, don't you? And when you work through it and you come out the other side and you have that little smile to yourself in the mirror where you go, yeah, I remember those little messages. I remember those people saying, you're too much of a big thinker. You dream all the time. All that's the same way. And then you go, actually, I just pulled this off. So thanks very much. Because we're only ever dealing with our own mind. And of course, that internal stuff stops so much. But if we can create, and I'm absolutely determined as a city level that we will, and we've got a long way to go, a place where people can, borrow a bit here, a few grand or 500 quid or start something. You started your shop as Mettricks for the first one. I started, I started my third business. My first customer in that business, which was in food distribution, although it was a new business, was in the Marlins, pretty much where we are now. And that was a few boxes, a van, which admittedly my family's business owned, a pen, an invoice pad, and a few products that they needed, which I then delivered to them. And then I expanded, and by the end of it, a few years later, had 50 staff and all these things like you do. So but we need to be able to encourage that, because there's no failure. There was no failure in any of those things that didn't work.
Yep.
And the other powerful thing about staying in the game that I think you're doing right now, I would say actually probably I feel it myself and our city is doing, is the things you've got wrong, somewhere along the line, like you see the opportunity to do them again a new way, and you go, had I have not made all those mistakes, I would never know now how to handle this. So everyone else going, oh, I'm really not sure how we do this. And you go, well, I'm pretty sure I know how to do this. And your mind now switches to the answer much quickly. Because like you say, you did all those things. They didn't work at the time. You're using the experience now, and now you're making a success of it. And that's the greatness of it.
Well, I think you and I both have managed to cram far more years of experience into the few years.
Yeah, the hair receding.
Yeah, well, I know, I've noticed. but
I'll lean backwards.
but I think that, again, we've both had a second chance.
We have.
Haven't we? And that has, no matter how many kind of naysayers there happen to have been around us, there's also been the support network that, and for me personally, one of those part of that support network has been you. It's, and many others. And I think, again, Southampton on the whole, we are supportive. It doesn't mean that there are not some, you read the comments section of the Daily Echo sometimes and you feel pretty disheartened. But if you stick to the real world and the people that you meet over a cup of coffee and the people that actually really matter to you, and the support network is there. And we've got a second chance. That is as a result of this city. Our city has given us that chance. And I feel pretty good about that.
And that we are living a dream every day, aren't we? We are living that dream every day.
Well, I guess on sleep we are.
And the real power of all of this in the second term round, the second time round that you talk about, is one, your commitment goes through the roof. Two, that self-doubt is still there, but you work through it. And I think the biggest thing for me, and I know for you and other people we have on the show and the Soutonians that we know and are driving forward, is that real commitment to give back. And absolutely right now, regardless of what you've got, the most powerful thing you can do is go, you know what, I overcame these things, you've overcome these things, we've driven through them, and the first thing we want to do is put our hand out to someone who's struggling and go, do you know what, we're here for you, we've got this. And what really drives me, like you were saying about all those little conversations in Mettricks, what really drives me is we're not a council, we are a council, but we're not just a council, we're here when people need us the most, to get themselves back on their feet and then help them transition to the best version of themselves. And the more we do that as a place, it can only be successful for everyone. And that's the legacy I think we get to leave.
I think so. And I really strongly believe we build each other up. And I'm here to stay again now. I've tried to escape a few times. I've tried to run away.
Well, you haven't let you go.
I've ended up coming back. And, I'm fully committed to here. I absolutely love the place, no matter how hard it's been at times, no matter how painful it's been at times. And I still live in the city centre. I will continue to live here. I think that's another thing. There are a lot of people that live here and are fully invested here and are now doing stuff. And I think that's exciting. And that has changed. I think you go back 10 years ago and a lot of the people that were making decisions for the city, they didn't live here. Their investment was kind of a little bit part-time almost. And I think that's, it's changing a little bit and it's exciting. I bump into you partly because you live around the corner from me as well. We meet up organically because of how committed we are. And similarly to you, a big part of my personal mission going forward is one, to create a sustainable business that actually won't go through the kind of issues that it's had in the past. Because number one, that's the foundation on which everything is built. But two is absolutely to be giving stuff back in whatever way we can do. And I think that one of the biggest ways you can help shape and change a place is to inspire other people to believe in themselves and the ideas that they've got and the passions that they've got. Because ultimately, how powerful is it to harness the hundreds of thousands of people within this city to just do a couple of % more with their time, with their life, to think they've got the potential to do something. That's game changing. That's the stuff that's transformative. And there's no amount of external investment, as good as that is, that will have the same impact as us getting our own people to believe in their future and making a better job of it.
And that is exactly it. We game change people's lives by making 0.1% and then 1% change. That cumulative impact, supporting one another is what it's about. And there is so much of that here. So I think Ben, we could go on for a long period of time, and indeed
well, we will for years.
We do. Yeah.
We'll be here. It's not ending, is it?
No, exactly. And really, part of that, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Part of this show, the purpose of this is to showcase people like yourself, showcase what's going on, showcase that success comes from things not going right, and staying in the game. But also really showing the granularity of where we are right now. We've got lots of great people in our city that are doing great work day in, day out, and we want to showcase that. But coming back to you, what does Mettricks? Where is Mettricks going now? What does the future look like? Where are we going to see Mettricks in the next couple of years?
I mean, it's a question that I've asked myself a lot over the last 18 months, and it's clearly evolved very quickly from being, how do we survive? How do we recreate this thing that's more than just a cup of coffee, which I feel we're very close to doing, to really reinvesting in being at the heart of both the communities that we're currently in. So I want us to be doing more in Woolston, in Portswood, in the city centre, and then probably looking at how we do that elsewhere in the city. So I think there's scope to have another couple of sites within Southampton. We have no grand plans to be doing anything far beyond here. Like, the vision that I have for Mettricks is for us to be a high impact local business. Yeah. And there's, I'm not greedy. I'd prefer us to be doing lots of good stuff in an area that I know and feel passionately about. We're going to roast our own coffee. Yep. And that's coming next, and I'm really excited about that. It's something that we've been kind of dreaming about for years, and feels like a nice kind of full story circle. We've also got the bakery side of things coming along as well. But I think it's to do what we've done already for nearly 9 years now, continue to do it, make sure that we're really clear on what the kind of the values and the cultural piece of the business is, and why we're important to the people that use us, and reinforce that. Work really hard not to lose our way again. Yep. Not to lose sight of that. Part of that is, I need to look after myself so that I'm in a good headspace. Good sleep. Yeah, get some good sleep. But no, I want Mettricks to continue to have a meaningful, kind of positive impact on the communities that we are in, to continue to play that role of Southampton's living room in a really, that's not, like I say, it's not a marketing department or kind of professional that came up with that. Those are words that somebody told me, and I just happen to really believe that they were right. And then personally, who knows? Everything that I do now, I want to be aligning behind those very similar values and mission. And we've got some time on our side still, Dan. Like Like I say, we've had the experience, we've had we've had the challenges, we've had the significant knockbacks, we have the support to get back up on our feet, and I think Southampton's an exciting place to be. I think there's a really interesting, exciting group of people that care passionately about this place now, and are working tirelessly to make it kind of happen in all sorts of different areas of the city. It's a good time to be here, isn't it?
Here we go, mate.
Here we go. Yeah.
Well, Spen, I mean, that has been really powerful, and I think there are so many golden nuggets of information and inspiration, but just commitment. And really knowing that sense of timing. And I think one of the most wonderful things about life is that at the most lowest points, sometimes we can't always see the good bits, but if we keep going and stay committed to values and mission and principle, these golden moments open up, don't they? Yeah. And it's a magic that we can't explain, but you've exemplified that, and I know from knowing you, but also knowing the people that are in this city that are looking now to either grow their business or start a business, that is gold dust. What you're talking here is so valuable to them, because it starts here, made it happen, come here, go back there, and actually now end up higher than ever been before. Yeah. So any closing comments or nuggets of wisdom any further that you want to add?
Have I not said enough already? I don't think there are, really. I think it's other than it really does feel like a moment in time to be getting involved in this city. And I think if anybody's watching this and has had any hesitancy to throw their hat into the ring, or to try and have a conversation, or my door's open. I'm very happy to chat with people about stuff if they feel they want to. I don't know what that might be. I can give you a very good cup of coffee and and make it a comfortable experience. But I really feel like this is a moment.
Yeah.
And we do need to embrace it and make the most of it.
Yeah.
But it's a moment that we've been building to for a long time.
Yes.
Also, it's not a manufactured moment. I don't think it's a one-dimensional moment.
No.
I think it does feel like there's lots of strands of stuff all coming together at the same time. Doesn't mean it's inevitable we're going to get it right. So I think we've got to be sensible and smart and make the most of it. But yeah, having been actively involved now in the city for 9 or 10 years, and like you say, had my ups and had my downs, yeah, it feels good. So I think, yeah, now's the time to take a couple of risks, get involved, have a little bit of confidence that you might have lacked before. Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, the greatest risk in life is to risk nothing at all, isn't it?
Right.
And that's ultimately it.
Yep.
Well, Spen, thank you very much for coming on today. We're at the end of the show, but I mean, what a phenomenal hour run through of experience, Soutonian commitment, spirit, drive, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the food, the culture, where we're growing as a city, and just a great story. I mean, Spen's details will be on Facebook or LinkedIn or anywhere you want to add and chat to him, please do so. If you want to go for a nice cup of tea or dinner or coffee or lunch or brunch or take the dogs for a walk or the rabbit, of course, then feel free to go to Spen's sites across the city, and of course the new Portswood one as well. But this is all part of, the thing that fascinates me and I love is this opportunity to showcase a light on great people in our city doing great work. And, Spen, you exemplify that to the highest degree and really now show that whoever you are, wherever you're from, if you're from Southampton, you want to do something, then this is the place to do it. And if you're not and you want to come here, then please do so, because we're on a great journey. This is the moment to do stuff, and we're going forward. So thank you for listening. Thank you for coming along. Look forward to the next show. This is our fifth of these podcasts now, and there'll be so many more to come. But what a really, really great show. Thank you, Spen. And keep doing the great work, everyone. Keep living the dream. Keep getting Southampton moving. Keep believing. Keep pushing. And let's make this Squid City the great place it is. Thank you. Bye for now.